Before the first pyramid was ever built, before hieroglyphs carved names into eternity, before the world even knew the word Pharaoh, there was Narmer, a man who didn't just rule Egypt, he created it. Over 5,000 years ago, in a world still emerging from the fog of prehistory, Narmer appeared like a lightning strike. He took the fractured, warring lands, Upper and Lower Egypt, and fused them into one civilization, one identity, one throne. He wasn't a king. He was the origin of kings, the blueprint, the spark, the first in a line of rulers that would define power for millennia. At the time of Narmer's rise, Egypt was a land divided not only by geography, but by culture and belief. Upper Egypt, to the south, was narrow and rugged, stretching along the Nile like a lifeline through desert cliffs. Lower Egypt, to the north, was expansive and green, where the river fanned into a delta that spilled into the Mediterranean. These were not just regions. They were nations, each with their own rulers, crowns, customs, and gods. For centuries, they clashed, traded, and struggled for supremacy. But in the midst of this tension, one man saw a different future. Narmer didn't just want victory. He wanted unification, not conquest, but creation. His campaign to unify the two lands wasn't a single act, it was a calculated, years-long effort of diplomacy, warfare, religious ritual, and iconography. And we know it worked because of one of the most important artifacts in all of human history, the Narmer Palette. Carved in stone over 5,000 years ago, it is more than art, it is ideology. On one side, Narmer wears the tall white crown of Upper Egypt, striking down an enemy while the falcon god Horus oversees his victory. On the other, he wears the flat red crown of Lower Egypt, surveying rows of decapitated foes. At the center, the mythical beasts with intertwined necks form a circle, the eternal knot of unity. The palette wasn't just decoration, it was declaration. The king rules both lands, one crown, one nation. This was the first time in history that a ruler proclaimed divine kingship through visual propaganda. Narmer wasn't just showing power, he was defining it. He aligned himself with Horus, becoming the living embodiment of the falcon god. He positioned his enemies beneath his feet, signaling not just military dominance, but spiritual triumph. And he did it all in a visual language that would become the foundation of Egyptian royal art. For thousands of years, every pharaoh who followed him, every pyramid, every temple, every statue borrowed from the visual legacy Narmer forged first. But Narmer was more than a warrior king. He was a state builder. After his unification, he established a new capital city at Memphis, located at the strategic juncture where Upper and Lower Egypt met. This wasn't just a convenient location, it was a symbol. Memphis became the literal and spiritual heart of a united Egypt, a place where the king could oversee both the south and the north with equal reach. From here, Narmer began organizing what would become the oldest centralized government in human history. He appointed local governors, developed taxation systems based on grain and labor, and began laying the administrative foundation for what would become the dynastic state. Under his rule, Egypt's first rudimentary writing system evolved into proto-hieroglyphics. These early symbols, etched into pottery, ivory, and stone, began as simple marks, but grew into a complex language system used to record laws, inventories, religious texts, and royal decrees. Narmer's circa rectangular nameplate, topped with the falcon of Horus, became the first formal royal insignia. It was the beginning of Egyptian writing, of official memory, of the eternal voice of the pharaoh. Narmer also understood the importance of math, the ancient Egyptian principle of truth, balance, and cosmic order. He didn't just conquer Egypt, he stabilized it. His reign brought peace to a region long racked by civil conflict. He used ritual, ceremony, and architecture to enforce not just political unity, but spiritual equilibrium. The pharaoh, in Narmer's vision, was not just king, but priest, judge, and steward of the universe. He alone maintained harmony between gods, humans, and nature. This concept that a ruler holds the cosmic balance in his hands would endure in Egyptian ideology for more than 3,000 years. He also pioneered Egypt's first state religion by centering his identity on Horus and constructing temples to honor the divine role of kingship. He institutionalized the fusion of religion and government. Kingship wasn't inherited by birth alone, it was a divine appointment, validated by celestial authority and reinforced by ritual. This allowed him not just to rule the people, but to rule their imagination. To resist Narmer was to resist the gods. Narmer's foreign policy extended beyond unification. Evidence suggests he launched expeditions south into Nubia, Egypt's powerful neighbor. both to secure trade routes and to acquire precious resources like gold and incense. Some of the earliest rock inscriptions in Nubia bear his mark, indicating Egyptian presence and influence as far as the Second Cataract of the Nile. He also maintained trade with Canaan, as pottery and tools inscribed with his name have been found in what is now Israel and Palestine. Narmer didn't just look inward. He positioned Egypt as a player in a broader Afro-Asiatic world, a hub of economic and political power. And while Narmer's actual tomb has never been definitively confirmed, most scholars believe he was buried at Abydos, the secret necropolis of Egypt's earliest kings. His tomb, though modest by later standards, helped establish Abydos as a religious center where generations of pharaohs would return in death to link themselves with the founder of Egyptian power. In time, Abydos became associated with Osiris, the god of the dead, further tying Narmer's legacy to the afterlife and the eternal cycle of kingship. The debate over whether Narmer and Menes were the same individual continues among historians. Menes, mentioned in later Greek accounts as the first king of Egypt, may have been a throne name or even a symbolic title, but Narmer is real. His name is carved in stone. His palace survives. His reign is the first historical moment where myth and record collide. Narmer wasn't a legend. He was a man, and his choices created a civilization. Every ruler who came after him, Djoser, Khufu, Hatshepsut, Ramses, walked in his shadow. Narmer invented the model they followed. His crown, his palace, his concept of divine rule, his integration of art, religion, and politics. These were not borrowed. They were original, born from his imagination and forged in stone. Even the Egyptian calendar, one of the most accurate in the ancient world, may have its origins in Narmer's time, aligning the flood of the Nile with the rising of Sirius and the agricultural cycle. Time itself, in Egypt, began to revolve around kingship. Around Narmer, his palette became a sacred object, not just of historical record, but of ceremonial use. For centuries, future kings invoked Narmer's imagery to affirm their own legitimacy. He wasn't just the first king, he was the standard by which all kings were measured. To understand Narmer is to understand the origin of civilization itself. Long before Greece, long before Rome, before written law or democracy or empires cross continents, there was Egypt, and at Egypt's foundation, like bedrock beneath a pyramid, stands Narmer, the first to unify, the first to reign, the first to show that power, when fused with myth, could last forever. So when you think of ancient Egypt, its gods, its pyramids, its pharaohs, its timeless mystery, remember that it all began with one man, one moment, one vision. Narmer didn't just wear the double crown, he invented it, and with it, he invented an idea that would outlive even the sands of time.